Hi, my name is Saloni,
And my name is Dishita.
and welcome to the To Be Determined podcast. We are two best friends who moved across the world, and every week we sit across from each other on FaceTime and discuss how life has been. So, today we are discussing all things dating apps,
Yay!
our favorite topic to discuss. I feel like we both have had our fair share of experience there, to
Oh,
say the least.
definitely. Definitely.
So before I really get into the conversation on dating apps, I just wanted to ask, Dishta, how did your parents meet?
Well, a very traditional Indian way. It was an arranged marriage. It was through mutual friends. They saw each other, they thought that they were good looking, and said, "Yeah, let's do this." And here I am.
I would say like literally I sometimes I feel like we live the same lives because I had like my parents met the exact same way except it was a neighbor. My mom's like neighbor knew my dad and knew that he was looking for a wife and she was looking for a husband, and they just so happened to be like colleagues in the same bank but different departments, and they were like,
Oh my
"Oh,
god.
that's perfect, let's do it. You're not totally a stranger." I
But it's
feel
mutual. Might
Yeah,
as well.
definitely. But I feel like it's so interesting how, like, the entire concept of like dating and relationships has changed so much, especially with like digitalization, and how not only has it changed, but how like it's so common between us, even though like you live in Australia, I live in UK, we both have primarily relied on dating apps to like seek
Definitely.
out, romantic partners and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Dishita, just talking about the apps, how has your experience been, and what do you think actually drove you to dating apps?
Right. Well, I personally feel like in Melbourne, it's just very difficult to make friends because everyone has high school friends that they want to stick to. So, if you really want to have a fair chance, go for the dating apps. That is the best way to start. It can be for the relationships, or if you want looking for someone who you actually vibe with, or someone get along with, without having to be anxious, especially as an anxious person. You need, I guess it's like a safety wall that you get to hide behind, you know?
Yeah,
At the
yeah.
same time, it's just like you still have the opportunity and the chance to meet people. So I guess that works out. That's my main thing. I guess you get to have that safety net. But what about you? For me, it's that
I,
anxious part.
I would say the same thing. For me, mainly it's the concept of access. I don't know if it's the same thing in Melbourne, but I would argue, like in London and specifically in Kings, I feel like my uni life is very disconnected from like my personal life, especially because like I live in a big city and I live
Mm.
like 20 minutes away from central London, and like all my friends, like they live pretty far away. Like we're all pretty spread out in London. So
Yeah.
like uni really becomes like a, oh, I come here, I drop by for 2 hours, I go to my classes and I come back home. And then I have my uni friends and I have my like friends. So like
Yeah.
that disconnect also like in a way stopped me from meeting like people I would have like liked to have met as well. So
That's
like
very true.
dating apps just gives me access
That
to
is
a
true.
lot of these people. Like I feel like
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, I think
It's
you
very important. For sure,
yeah.
because the uni life, especially for international students and in Melbourne, because a lot of locals that study here do tend to want to, they enjoy their time with their high school friends, people they grew up with. It's comfortable for them, but it makes it very difficult to meet new people, especially as someone coming from outside. So the access is definitely the most important part. Yeah.
Um, Also, just thinking about also like access and personal preferences, I think it's also a good way of how our own personal preferences and identity as well is negotiated around these dating apps. I was talking to one of
Yeah.
my really good friends the other day, and she started dating or started using dating apps around the age of 18, 19. And she told me
Oh.
that it was such a good way of her, like she was not looking for a partner or anything, but it was
Mm.
such a good way of her to almost like figure out what she wanted in a partner, but also figure out her own likes and dislikes when it comes to like
Mm.
social situations. Would you say the
Definitely.
same thing applies to you?
Oh yeah, For sure, because I feel like, see, I grew up in Oman. We both grew up in Oman, and it was a very conservative country that we grew up with, very traditional. But suddenly, when you come here, it's like entering a new like world, new life. It was like you suddenly have this thing, like you have a choice. You
Yeah.
have a choice. You can choose, and you can, like brand yourself a certain way, or you can make yourself seem a certain way, and it definitely makes it easier for you to express yourself without you just have the chance to express yourself properly and you have the choice to do that. That is what I feel like was very important to me. Do
Yeah.
you think it's like that for you? Like I like the branding aspect. You can.
Definitely. And it's good that you brought the branding aspect because that was literally going to be my next question. But before we like really
Mm,
well into it, I feel like it's very interesting about how something so private to me, which is literally who I am as a person and what my preferences are, not only when it comes to a partner, but also things like, like I like to do things like for like a date. And that only does not apply for like romantic situations, also like in friends context. I like to
mm,
like do an activity and then go and chill. Something as simple as that, something so private to me, is
yeah.
being played out or is being constructed in like the digital setting in like
Yeah.
almost like a public domain, which is so interesting.
Yeah.
How our own private lives are like so like negotiated in the public, which is again like a topic that we are gonna come back to.
Yeah.
Feeling
Yeah.
like you have a lot to
Oh my
talk
god,
about.
yes. I
Yeah,
feel like
we're
it's
gonna
so performative and stuff. So yeah, okay, yeah.
So
Yeah.
just talking about the branding aspect, right? So I
Mm,
feel like with dating apps, we are almost creating our own identity. We are giving a
yeah.
very 2D version of
Mm-hmm.
ourselves. So
Exactly.
when you're creating a profile, do you ever wonder like, oh, is this like, how do I say like how I'm branding myself? Do you think about those
Mm.
things? Like, do you have like certain metrics that you use when you're making your dating apps? Because I surely have mine.
Oh, definitely. Because I feel like when you're making a profile or when you're trying to put yourself out there, you're trying to be vulnerable, but at the same time, I feel like it compromises how original or authentic you're being. Because you're also trying to be desirable, and it's kind of like a competition. And you're in
Yeah.
this part, it's like you're trying to win the game of the swipe. Because, I had a friend, he was showing it to me, and he was like, yeah, you can just go swipe right, right, right. Everyone's gorgeous. What do you mean? So you're in that competition, and you're trying to make yourself seem better, or you're trying to win or like put yourself out there, but at the same time, how authentic are you being? You reach that point where everything's just, is it or is it not?
Yeah, no, I totally get that. Because I feel like in a way we are commodifying ourselves, but like
Exactly.
not in like the literal sense. Like also because there are certain like algorithms at
Mm,
play, which again is an entire discussion that we're gonna come back to.
yeah,
Because there are these like algorithms that are at play, it picks up on certain things. It likes certain things. It doesn't like certain things. So
yeah,
how do I negotiate my again my own personal private identity in something like related to like algorithms and data, something that works on numbers and like computer mechanized things, you get me?
yeah,
So in
yeah.
a way, like yeah, it's giving us access to all these people, but it's if these
Mm,
people even see me, if the algorithm even recommends me, if the algorithm is even showing my profile. So
yeah,
in a way, yeah, we're
yeah.
spending all that time like branding ourselves, but it's like
Mm-hmm.
it really depends on like what the algorithm wants.
Definitely, it's like, am I really picking the person, or am I picking one out of the choice that they've given me?
Yes, like
you know
exactly, yeah. But I also, yeah, I definitely agree with the entire issue with the algorithm.
mm,
Now, just moving on, this is my
yeah.
favorite topic. I feel like everyone has so much to say about it.
Mhm.
Algorithms, gamification,
Oh, yeah.
and control.
Definitely.
I don't think I have met one person who loves the Hinge algorithm.
For
Everyone
sure.
hates the algorithm, but why? Like, the thing is,
Oh my
these
god.
algorithms are made in a way that is supposed to logically be in our favor. You know,
Yeah.
like it's supposed to recommend the partners that they think we are most compatible, especially when we are creating these profiles. We put in pictures of
Yeah.
ourselves on Hinge. I know you can also like put preferences to like who you would like to
Mm-hmm.
meet. Like even like things
Yeah.
like, okay, if I want to meet a friend, but I want to meet like more Indian people, for example, like I want to
Yeah.
connect
Yeah.
with people who are more in my culture, I have that option. And then like I have these
Yeah.
specific interests, like what the algorithm is supposed to do is match me with people with these specific interests. Do
Yeah.
you think you actually get matches that you're like, oh, like I can actually see myself like either being friends with them or like really going out with them?
I see this as gambling, if that makes sense.
Okay.
It's almost as if like they tempt you with the option, and then they'll be like, "Oh, it'll be $5 now for this if you actually want that," and
Yeah.
then they will slide in a few options, and it almost feels like I don't know. It just feels like I go in there to feel hot for a few seconds. Maybe it's the validation, but then you really sometimes when you go in with pure intentions as well, it's like, oh, let's actually meet someone. They're always kept on a section where you have to pay for it,
Yeah.
or yeah, it's kind of like they'll tempt you with it and then they don't give it to you unless you give in more of yours. Like you
Yeah.
have to always give something to get what you want, and it just feels like it's a transaction at that point. So I don't know. I just gets really to that point. I'm like, I don't know. It knows my type, but it also doesn't. It
Yeah.
just feels like you know what my type is, but you're putting them under this paid section. But at the same
Yeah.
time,
Yeah.
am I like,
Yeah,
yeah,
it's almost like commodifying like
yeah,
a partner, you get me? Because I feel like
mm,
the partners that I get recommended on Hinge specifically, that's why I love Bumble a lot. Because I feel like that I'm
yeah,
actually able to like meet people who I would actually see myself going out with. On Hinge, the
mm,
matches I get are a bit like just
yeah.
questionable to say the least. Like I don't
Oh,
want to get too deep into it, but it's just
yeah.
questionable.
Oh,
Again, I
definitely.
think it brings us back to like this core question of like why something that is so private to me is being negotiated by like these numbers. You
Oh,
get
yeah.
me? And
Oh, yeah.
why it's literally so like capitalistic. It's like this is hidden behind a paywall. Like, oh, you want like a partner, you want a boyfriend? No, it's behind a paywall.
Yeah, you have to pay for visibility or you have to pay for love.
Yeah.
Pay for it. Yeah.
Also, I think like something that you said was really interesting about like when you get like a match, you almost get like a dopamine hit and
Yeah.
validation.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk a bit more about it?
Yeah, sure. Why not? I feel like okay, so I especially as someone in our 20s, like when we're in our 20s and we're at the age where we want to meet new people and you just reach a point you're like, let's see if my type actually likes me back. That's when you start going on these pages and then you're trying to figure out, and then you get the validation, you get the likes and the roses and stuff, and then you're just like, oh, you know what, yeah. But after some time, when you're actually talking to these matches or like when a match happens, it just feels like now I'm just talking to a bot. Like the ghosting happens, and it's like you approached me first, but now there's the ghosting phase,
Yeah.
or these weird phases. So it almost feels like I'm talking to a bot. So it just makes it this weird feeling of why am I even being vulnerable on an online platform?
I think it's very interesting that you brought up both the concept of like validation, but also the concept of ghosting. Because
Yeah.
the way I say this, and me and my friends say this a lot, we
Mm.
never say, hey, like, let me go on Bumble and let me swipe or like find someone. We always say, oh my God, do you want to play Bumble? It's
Yeah.
become a game. It's like, okay,
Oh
am I
yes.
gonna get like, okay, I'm swiping, swiping, swiping.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I might get a match. It's like, oop, instant like dopamine hit. Instant like, oh,
Mm.
okay. And then I start talking to them and it's like, the back and forth. And then
Yeah.
supposing I actually end up like developing an emotional connection, it's just the constant worrying that it's like, okay, this might fade away or like this is just an online match. So like,
Yeah.
yeah, this is like again, I think I feel like this is really interesting with like
Yeah.
our core being, how our private lives are like shaped by like public and like these big
Yeah.
tech giants essentially.
Mm.
Again,
True.
how like my how do I say my mood or
Yeah.
how I'm feeling is literally determined on someone's ability to like almost text me back or like me not getting
Yeah.
matches and things like that. Because
Oh yeah.
sometimes when like as much as I don't want to admit it, when I don't get the matches I want, I
Yeah.
do feel a bit like, oh, am I ugly then? Because so much
Same.
is placed on like physical appearance because of the way the algorithm is made and because of like the entire gamification feature of it. Like you are
Exactly.
shopping for love, but you're
Yeah.
shopping human beings,
Yeah,
which sounds so wrong, but it makes so
it's
much sense.
so crazy. It's such a crazy concept because yeah, it's also it just it can spiral into negative feelings so quickly because it starts off with, oh, it's the validation, the happy, the little dopamine hit when you get the match you want, and then you're talking to them. But then after like when that thrill of it fades, it's just like I'm talking to a bot, or it just feels like, oh, now I'm in a competition. Like, will what I consider my type actually choose me as my type? So now I'm trying to be something I'm probably not. So you
Yeah,
lose the authentic part of it in that
yeah,
process. I'm just like, is it really true to who I am? I don't know. It just gets so, I guess, cold. It gets very cold.
yeah. No, I would definitely agree. Now, I think like this brings us to like the final question of this particular segment. Would you say like is intimacy still ours, or do you think it has been like digitalized, packaged, and like put on a platform?
It's definitely I think this is such a loaded question. I no, I
Do you
feel
think
like
you need a minute?
no, I feel like you see, okay, I want to say it's like a package because it almost feels like me as a person. Now it's like I'm making a resume of who I am. So intimacy is like I'm applying for a job. It almost feels like that. You know what I mean?
Oh my God, yeah.
It's like a CV. I'm making a CV, and it's like, do you like this? Do you want this? Do you need this? And it's being packaged and like branded, and I find it like, oh, it's I'm applying for a job. It's now being interviewed, and it's the most vulnerable connection you can have with a human being, and it's seen as something so, I guess, it's just something so not intimate.
Yeah, no, it's sometimes like because I know people who are actually like looking for romantic partners, like people
Yeah.
in their mid-20s who are actually looking for romantic partners, and they do rely on these apps. And
Mm.
for them, I feel like dating is something that's a bit like thrilling in a way,
Oh
like,
yeah.
oh my God, like look at me, like I'm going on this date. It's almost become like they're 5 to 9 after they're 9 to 5. Like they're on this
Yeah.
app
Oh yeah.
man, and it's like, okay, this man is, I can't go out with him, like like, oh, I'm well
Definitely.
educated, why am I not getting these matches? I have a good job, whatever. But I
Mm.
feel like, again, because we started off with the concept of arranged marriages, right? And
Yeah.
again,
Yeah.
how our intimate lives are shaped by a lot of people around us. I would
Mm.
also like to argue dating apps is just another form of arranged marriage.
Oh
I
yeah.
don't know if that makes
Oh
sense. Like
gosh.
there is a biodata in the form
Oh
of
my
your
god.
profile, but only
Exactly.
over here you have like, how do I say? In the case of my parents, it was proximity that allowed them to meet. Same thing
Yeah.
with like someone knew someone and that's how they met.
Yeah.
But again, it was a
Exactly.
very arranged marriage. Like the CVs were exchanged. The CVs were literally
Exactly.
exchanged.
Yeah,
So
they're always the CVs are the important part.
we curate our own profiles essentially, and then just
Yeah.
hope that an algorithm
Mm.
matches us
Mm.
together. You get me? So it's like as much as
Yeah.
people argue that like, oh, like arranged marriages, like it seems like forced marriages, I feel
Mm.
like in that case there's a lot more human connection that's happening than over here.
For sure. There's like it almost feels like you're talking to a bot, That's
Yeah,
like I mentioned, it's almost like it's this character that doesn't exist and I'm just talking to them. They happen to have the features that I like, and that's about it, like, oh, I like the way they look, that's it. That's literally, and it just makes it very difficult because you're trying to be vulnerable. You're trying to be true to yourself, but also at the same time be liked. But so you start tweaking original parts of yourself to be
yeah,
liked,
yeah.
and yeah, you're just like, am I
You're
losing
trying
myself in
to
the
build
process? Yeah. Yeah.
And I think it's just weird because, like, again, we are three-dimensional human beings who deserve to be loved regardless
Oh,
of our flaws.
oh, for sure. We need to be aware that we're not just using the app, we're also kind of being used. So just stay true to yourself
Yeah.
as much as you can.
So obviously we have talked about algorithms, we have talked about vulnerability, we have talked about like things like how our intimate lives are shaped, but I just want to talk about this one final session, which I don't really think people talk about a lot when it comes to dating apps specifically.
Yeah.
So Dishta, you yourself identify as bisexual, right?
Yes, I do.
So how would you say like moving to Australia and using these dating apps have like negotiated your sense of identity?
Moving to Australia, definitely, because it was, there's a different country, different people, different lifestyle, culture. It was very different because compared to Oman, you just have less judgment, more acceptance.
Yeah.
And coming onto dating apps, you get that chance to actually explore, like, oh, I'm bisexual, or oh, I have different tastes and interests. You actually have the space and the choice to explore that.
Yeah.
And I feel like when you start understanding different parts of yourself, you're really in that one phase where you're also trying to be like, oh, am I really going with the flow, or is this who I really am? I don't know. It's
Mhm.
just that one weird phase where it's just questions and questions and you're not sure what's happening. But yeah.
Yeah. So I feel like again it's very interesting about how even the concept of like what's legal and what's illegal
Mm,
in certain countries is
yeah.
actually affecting the way your intimate choices are being played out. Because I remember when we used to live in Oman, that is
Definitely.
not a part of yourself that you used to show publicly. Versus in
Yeah.
Australia now, not only can you like show it publicly without like
Yeah.
shame, but it's also like it's legally allowed and you're able to like
Exactly.
again negotiate that part of your identity on
Yeah.
such like a public platform. So like
Yeah.
obviously on these dating apps, I'm assuming you use Tinder
Mhm.
and
Oh,
Tinder,
and
Hinge, Bumble.
Hinge. Hinge is like the OG.
Do you feel like safe queer dating?
I would say to a certain extent, yes. But also, when you are on a digital platform, especially when you're a person of color, it can reach a point when are you genuinely finding genuine connections, or is it they're looking for an adventure with a person that's outside of their comfort zone, someone that they didn't grow up with? So it's just, you always have that little sense of, you're a bit paranoid all the time, but at the same time, it's definitely way more safer because I didn't even know I was bisexual until I moved out and I started to actually understand myself better and have the choice to understand myself better.
Yeah,
So, yeah, definitely would say way safer.
yeah. Even though our discussion when we initially planned it was going to be just like a fun thing about like our personal experiences with dating apps, I feel like it's so interesting in a way how like dating apps are almost shaping to be political spaces. In a
Oh,
way,
yeah.
like you're able to negotiate your identity not only in terms
Mm,
of like what you like privately as a person, but also in terms of like how things like what's legal and like how laws are shaping our own choices about like who I get access to on these apps. And
yeah.
at the same time, like it again can perpetuate mainstream notions on like what's considered desirable and
Yeah.
not. It's
Yeah.
again how like intimacy it is
Yeah.
shaped by systems.
Yeah, definitely. It's almost like a performance that you're putting up. There's an invisible script and you're trying to follow that script. And yeah, and who writes that script is everything outside of your control.
Literally. So I feel like we are more than like users. We're literally citizens, individuals, and we're negotiating systems of power and also our intimate lives. And it's literally being crafted in like a mediated space. So
Yeah.
the next time you swipe, ask yourself, am I in control or is it the machine?